Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she made her choice when she chose to keep seeing my husband's ex? I, 33 female, and my husband Tom, 35 male, have been no contact with most of his family for 3 years. Within those 3 years, I've had twin boys, which has made my mother-in-law try to get back in contact with me. There's a lot of history, but here's a brief summary of why Tom and I are no contact, and it all revolves around Tom's ex, who we'll call Talia. So, I am Indian American, and Tom is white. He comes from a pretty traditional family, and grew up in a small town. Talia was mother-in-law's best friend's daughter, and they were the small town romance everybody envied. However, upon meeting in college, Tom and I just clicked on a platonic level, and to be honest, I didn't even have feelings for him until 4 dates in. I guess you could say he had an emotional affair, but he never did anything physically romantic until he broke up with Talia. Talia, of course, remained in contact with his family since she had been, according to mother-in-law, the daughter she always wanted. Keep in mind, Tom has a sister. But, Talia is more of a homemaker, while my sister-in-law, who is an absolute angel, and I had always been more career-focused. Talia had been at every holiday, family gathering, and get-together since the very start of the relationship, and at first I paid it no mind. I was civil to Talia because mother-in-law made it clear Talia mattered to her, despite Talia's blatant distaste and disrespectful attitude towards me. That changed at my weddings. We had 2, and my parents footed the bill for both. The dress code was simple, aside from the obvious no white and wedding party colors rule, nobody was supposed to wear red. I am well aware that red means you slept with the groom, but more importantly, red is a bridal color in my culture. I wore a red lehenga and sari to my Indian wedding, in which she wore an eggshell, off-white dress. Keep in mind, white is worn at funerals to represent purity in my culture. That got my aunties and cousins talking, but I still had a blast since I really didn't care. I did care when she showed up to the American ceremony, in a floor-length, apple red gown with a slit going up the leg. It was a bridesmaid's dress, and it violated the dress code. My sister-in-law, along with Tom, went to tell her to change. She did leave after having a hushed argument and came back in a tea-length green gown. I assume she just wanted to see if she could get away with it. Apparently, my aunties saw this too. Which meant Talia was subjected to stares, whispers, and backhanded giggle fits throughout my whole American wedding. It made Talia feel embarrassed and she cried to mother-in-law, who went to me and told me to keep my kind in line. To this, I crossed my arms and told her that maybe Talia should have stayed in her lane, that she knew not to wear red for multiple, but mostly cultural, reasons, and it wasn't my fault my family is shaming her. It isn't my fault she became cannon fodder for my gossiping gaggle of a family. Yes, I said those words since that is what my aunties are. Those were the consequences of her actions. Tom and sister-in-law backed me up, and mother-in-law left with Talia before dessert. The next day there was a social media post from Talia, crying about how she was exiled from her best friend's wedding because the bride was jealous. I made a post back, telling her that she wore red, knowing how inappropriate it was. How her best friend is her ex, and to not sugarcoat what she did. I then tagged my mother-in-law in a separate post with screenshots of Talia's post and told her this was the last straw, and that I have been disrespected by Talia from the very beginning of my relationship, and that now that I was her daughter-in-law, she needed to keep Talia away from family events and holidays since she doesn't respect my husband and I. I didn't care if they still went on weekly shopping sprees or spa days, just keep her away from Christmas and BBQs. Talia removed her post after being publicly called out. Mother-in-law was good on this compromise until 3 years ago, after Talia came to Thanksgiving with a pie and a plastered smile, a Thanksgiving that I was hosting. She said something along the lines of mother-in-law invited me, and I wanted to make sure mother-in-law can actually eat something, since I know you tend to cook ethnic food. I slammed the door in her face, went over to mother-in-law, and told her she could leave with Talia, who I just slammed the door on. Tom looked at his mom, who had this deer in the headlights look. She tried to sputter excuses, and my father-in-law tried to defend my mother-in-law, but Tom stood firm. He said they had lost access to him, and any extension of him, since they chose Talia. My in-laws, aside from sister-in-law, left, and we haven't spoken since. Fast forward to last week, I got a text from an unknown number, and it was mother-in-law. She said she saw a picture of my boys from a mutual friend's post, and wanted to reconcile. She said she'd keep Talia away this time, and that ever since she got cut off, she's been in minimal contact with Talia anyway. Her Facebook begs to differ. I told her as much, saying I knew bullcrap when I smelt it, and she made her choice. I told Tom about it, and asked if he missed his family. He shrugged, saying he doesn't care, and it's been relieving not having his mom around. He's the youngest son of 3, so he was always the baby boy. But I have since received text from my brother-in-laws, their wives, and my father-in-law begging for a second chance. She always wanted to be a grandma, and I do feel like I'm robbing her of a chance. Her other sons haven't had children yet, and sister-in-law cut her off when we did. But you can't undo nearly a decade of disrespect with wishes and wants. And Talia is still in the picture, so I'm skeptical about how long that promise will last. I feel like I'm being calloused, but there are so many stories I can tell about Talia's disregard for Tom's boundaries, and mine. And I don't want to welcome a storm into my house by opening up the gates. So am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she made her choice after she kept my husband's ex around? Edit. Since there seems to be some confusion, I want to clarify Tom did not cheat on Talia with me. Tom broke up with Talia after a few platonic hangouts with me. That is why I said you could call it an emotional affair, because you could argue it was one, loosely. Tom only asked me out after he broke up with Talia, and I accepted after he confirmed via texts he had broken up with her while visiting home for the weekend. There was no overlap between Talia's relationship and mine with Tom. So, for everyone who thinks I was other woman and the reason my mother-in-law hates me is because Tom cheated on Talia, no he didn't. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the next crazy tales. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next video.